It's been said that to truly honor someone is to imitate them. So in this 100th year of statehood, what better way to remember our forefathers than to duplicate what they had? Log cabins.
A lone man began an adventure in constructing something from our pioneer past nearly 2 years ago. His name is Mel Thorne.
So being a member of the local genealogical society and aware of the fact that we had some early pioneer settlers in this country, I decided that if we could locate by chance the names of the people who were original pioneers here and where they settled and what they built their cabins out of, that we ought to duplicate that and make it a lasting legacy, make it something that would last for 100 years, for 200 years, for the tricentennial, if we're going to have one, and I think we will.
With that optimistic outlook, Thorne's journey began, first gathering information on what materials he would need, and then gaining approval for the South Dakota Centennial Commemorative Pioneer Cabin.
I drew up some plans mentally, and then I presented the program to the county commissioners. They liked the idea. I presented the program then to the city commissioners, and they liked the idea. I went to the park board and asked them if we could have a spot in the park for such an establishment in the event it would materialize, and they said, you bet.
Then it was time to find the 120 or so ash trees that would provide the 11-inch square logs for the cabin.
After we had obtained permission from the owners of the land along the river, the Big Sioux River, where the trees all came from, to select trees, I must have walked 100 miles with engineer's tape, finding the appropriate trees, finding the ones that would give us the timbers that we needed, the length of the logs that we needed, and they were all marked with a red ribbon about 6 feet tall.
On August 9th, 1988, a big ceremony was held to fell the final trees.
I think we need a copper saw, Howard.
Horse teams pulled the logs to the loading site.
What do you got here, Jack and Jill?
Get your phone, you okay? Come on. Still.
And the logs were loaded onto National Guard transport trucks to be taken to a sawmill in Sioux Falls. The shaping of the 1/2-ton ash logs kept Mel and Bob Hesh busy through the winter months and on into spring when it was time to break ground at the building site. Many local dignitaries came out to take their turn with the spade.
Very good, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Gail Robertson.
It was just 2 weeks later that the first 4 logs were put into place on April 21st, 1989.
First log comes off. Run over it. Step down. Now, is it the right length or is it a 1/2 inch too long?
100 covered wagons coming to every county seat in the state of South Dakota, East River. West River, Big got 100 covered wagons. All of the covered wagons are like to come to the state fair.
You're full of them? You're full of answers. You're a typical politician. You got all the answers, you just let the kids come up with the questions.
Over the next 10 weeks, work accelerated on the 17 by 22-foot structure. It seemed like the walls went up in no time.
Clear on the wall. Clear on the wall. That way. Undo your rollers. You ready?
Yeah.
With just a few final touches to complete, the dedication day arrived July 4th, 1989. A large crowd assembled to take part in the festivities. A low rumble about the looks of the cabin rolled through the gathering. It was made of square logs.
Well, the way the original pioneers built their cabins was, number one, was in a hurry. That was their first priority. They didn't have if they had logs available, they didn't have the time, perhaps, to process them, and they put them up any way they possibly could. Or they didn't know how to really build a log cabin. And I'm not saying that I'm a professor either. I don't know how. I didn't know how to build a cabin. And so we began to research, and we found that more than 300 years ago, cabins were built of square logs in Pennsylvania, and they're still standing, or 200 years ago, and they're still standing over in Europe 300 and 400 years ago, and they were all built of square logs. On more than one occasion, as I was telling you earlier, I've had people my age, and even some of the younger people, come in and stand and look around, and if I'm in there working or something, and as I have been, they would turn and away from me and seem to stand and just think. They must have been remembering tales or something, stories that their grandparents had told them or their parents had told them. But when they turn around and are ready to leave, and you see tears coming down their face, down their cheeks, you know you've touched their hearts some way. And that's what it's all about.